This week on Short Rest Studios, I'm going to do a review of the LayerUp Paint Kit from Reaper Minis. And I'm going to just basically kind of give you my take on, as a beginner, how this kit is, especially coming from the first kit, and just give you some tips and tricks. But this isn't a tutorial. I'm not there yet. And then lastly, we'll really kind of answer the question of, should you stick your paintbrush in your mouth? So let's take a look what's inside the kit. When you open it up, you're going to find a few things. Obviously, you are going to see the paints. It comes with all the paints that are within the guide so that you can successfully paint all the models that are included with the kit. So here they are, different reds, different blues, some fun colors to paint these minis with. Just showing off more of these colors. And then the brushes themselves. So these are the two brushes that they refer to in the manual for you to, again, to paint these minis. And then you have a pirate, the wizard, and a rogue. And they start you off with the wizard within the manual. And then everything within this Learn to Paint goes through. They give you tips. They talk about the techniques and kind of how to get there. Okay, so now that you've seen the unboxing aspect of the paint kit, really just kind of go over my experience with it. So I'm new to this hobby and I'm still learning tons of techniques. And the very first Learn How to Paint kit that came from Reaper it's great because you really kind of just get to immerse yourself, dive in, and the instructions that they give you are so easy to follow that you come out with 3 miniatures that are really painted well, you feel good, and it really just makes you hungry to do more within the hobby. I would say this is the next step or the next iteration of your painting journey, and it's a little overwhelming, but at the same time they still do a good job of introducing you to the concepts. So the one thing that I noticed the first time that I read this book, maybe as a typical guy, I didn't read all the instructions 100%. And when they're going over this portion of it, they were referring to these paint swatches and what was happening. And that's probably Captain Obvious, but for some reason, I thought they were referencing this piece. So I was a little lost. But outside of that, I felt their explanation of the different ways of blending, and especially using glazing in their version, was really well thought out and was really well described. Now, I did go and augment a lot of what they taught within this book with additional videos, which I'm going to link here. And these different artists that are out on YouTube really kind of give their version or their takes on how to do layering. And then they also introduce other advanced concepts like feathering, wet blending, and how to use glazing in a different way of like changing the tone or the color of the overall model. So it really kind of opens up this brand new world and this brand new aspect of painting minis that the first kit really didn't introduce you to as much. And then it really, again, whets that appetite that you want to learn more and more. So all in all, I enjoyed painting the wizard, which I have here. But truth be told, this was my second wizard. My first one, I painted him so terribly bad and I didn't do such a good job that I attempted to completely clean him using super green and rubbing alcohol, and in that process I broke his little staff there, and despite all my efforts I could not glue it back. So I ordered another one, and this time around I was a lot more successful in what I was able to do, and kind of, you know, somewhat meet what I think the objective of the kit was. Now, one thing I chose not to do, just because I don't like the way it looks, is within the book they talk about outlining, and I definitely see the benefits of it, but me personally, I just don't like my models to kind of have that black line all over the place. At least on him, I thought he looked a lot better without the lining aspect, but outside of that, I really enjoyed painting him and really growing with the techniques. That being said, I'll just share some personal experience for me from an artistic standpoint You know, I'm a network engineer by trade, so I'm a very analytical person. And sometimes when I go to do art, I have to do this like shift in my mind to get more in an artistic or a creative mindset. And sometimes that's rather difficult for me. So I've always done art as a hobby. I started out doing, you know, traditional painting on acrylics on canvases and whatnot. Then I got into 2D art digitally, and then I got into digital painting, and then I got into 3D, and then motion graphics and digital sculpting, like all of it. And I always thought that I would enjoy that better, just because there's an undo and it's a digital piece. And so it's not like, you know, if I was painting this and I didn't like the way this looked, then I would have to mess around with the physical aspects of it. But one thing that I've actually learned by painting minis is having that tactile feel and actually being able to touch things. And as you lay paint down, to be able to see how it interacts. I'm actually enjoying that more than I ever did from the digital piece journey, so to speak. So for me, I've really enjoyed getting into the minis, and I feel all the things that I learned from the other aspects are being reinforced. So a lot of the artists out there are painting minis, and they talk about, you know, shadow highlights or tones, or, you know, how to do non-metallic metal painting, all these things. It's just these techniques. The other thing I would caveat this kit with is, and you know, maybe you're guilty like I am, but there's so many great artists out there, and you see them painting, and then you look at yours and you're kind of like, well, you know what, this doesn't look anything like the manual, or this doesn't look like what somebody else posted on Reddit. Well, of course not, because I've only painted this thing 3 times. So we see a lot, you know, you always see that picture. It's like you see the tip of the iceberg and you don't see all the stuff that's underneath it. And those are the 10,000 hours, so to speak, of the people that have put the time and energy into learning these techniques and practice them over and over again. So that's one thing, is potentially buying multiples of the same wizard and painting him multiple times. I had showed this earlier and I just wanted to touch on it again. So I had picked this up from other videos, so this is not unique. It's not my idea, but they had recommended that you buy or print bases. So in my case, I printed bases, and I used it to test out. For me, it was how to blend using a glaze. So obviously I didn't do a perfect job on it, so to speak, but you know, you keep practicing on it. But one thing is this is flat, so you don't get the highlight areas and the shadow areas. So another thing that I did is that I went in the blender, and it's real easy to just put a plane down, and then you add some noise to a deformer, and then you basically get kind of like a topology or a landscape like this. And then you can print this out. This is resin printed. But then it gives you an opportunity to test out different blending models where you have, you know, peaks and valleys to get your shadows and your highlights. And obviously I was testing out actually some zombie skin, which is another video that will be coming up soon. You can see it back here, maybe, that it's still primed, but there's a diorama that we've been working on at Short Rest Studios. So just working out some of the skin, but this is a primed piece that we're going to be working on. The other aspect was, you know, I was completely excited with the wizard in this kit, and just because he had the folds and all these things that I saw that I thought would be fun to paint with this technique. And of course, you know, as you saw in the unboxing, it also came with like a little rogue, and then it came with a little pirate. This one was okay. I was like, cool, that should be fun, but originally I was not interested in this guy. But honestly, now that I've gone through this technique and I've watched other videos online of how to paint things, I see aspects of him, especially with the details of the Reaper models, that it's going to be fun to truly paint this. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that aspect of it. And I made a comment about his staff and breaking it earlier. I'm sure there's some kind of innuendo in there, but you know, take it for what it is. With that all being said, you know, the kit, it was a great kit. I highly recommend it if you haven't painted this. I can't say if you're advanced, if you're going to get anything from it. But obviously Reaper's local to me, so I'm a big fan. We have another video, and you can see it here, where we actually went to the factory and got to walk through it and see everything there, and that was cool. So it's a good kit. They did say that these are their most popular items for the most part. So it's been a real good fun kit, and obviously I've only done one of the 3 models and looking forward to finishing them. And then after that, I picked this one up as well. I won't be doing a review on this, but this is somewhat like a quick paint kit, somewhat similar, but you can see here the goblins. It just looks like it's going to be fun as I continue to grow. and learn the techniques and being able to paint these things, and then we get to use them in our campaigns. So all that being said, you know, thank you. And to all those artists out there that I've listed that just help to expand on how to do layering, and then introducing other concepts. Like I said, they're not in the book, but you'll find yourself digging into, you know, the wet blending, the feathering, you know, those aspects. Obviously, the things that I did had nothing to do with non-metallic metal, but yeah, it's a great kit. Highly recommend it, and we appreciate you joining us.